New England Patriots lose the penultimate game of the season, 27-21 to the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, this was the best case scenario. I don't root for them to lose in real time, but at the same time, there is a little dopamine hit I get when the Patriots do lose because we want one of those top draft picks, right? But there were a lot of positives that came out of this game. Unfortunately, the negatives, particularly in the first 20 minutes, really offset that, and those are the reasons they lost to the Bills. So let's get into that for a minute. Patriots turned the ball over 4 times in the first quarter plus of the game, the first 20 minutes of the game. 3 interceptions from Bailey Zappe, and, looking at Twitter or X during the game, a lot of people sitting there saying, oh, here we go again. Bailey Zappe, just another Mac Jones. But you actually look at the interceptions. Yes, it is Zappe's fault a little bit. Like, I'm not going to just completely dismiss it and say, oh, they were all flukes. You don't throw those. But these were not the Mac Jones interceptions where he just, kind of implodes and sees a little bit of pressure and throws it to the other team. No, the first came on a really solid defensive play. Mike Gesicki not running toward the ball the way he should have. Doesn't mean that's a throw Zappe should have made, but the only reason he made that throw is because Pharaoh Brown had not turned around in time. Pharaoh Brown had a fumble of his own early in the game. Zappe also threw an interception where the defense was floating to the right, and then the cornerback undercut the route, which was a risk because had Zappe completed I think it was an attempted back shoulder throw, he could have gone all the way, but ultimately it was just a really strong defensive play. And then the third interception early in the second quarter came when Jalen Reagor was supposed to run a slant route, and instead Zappe threw it where he was supposed to, and it ended up in the other team's hands because Reagor ran the wrong route. But I don't blame the last one on Zappe. I blame the first 2 a little bit on him. But ultimately, those were the reasons the Patriots lost the game. It screwed up Zappe's passer rating. He only had a 47.3. But you take out the interceptions. That's a big thing to take out, I understand. He still threw for 209 yards, 16 of 26 passing, and did a fairly decent job considering the pressure he was under all game. And look, right now, the Patriots, thankfully, because they lost this game, the Arizona Cardinals also defeated the Eagles. Really a real low point for Philadelphia this season. But because of that defeat, Pats now look to be at the number 2 spot in the NFL draft. They also leapfrogged Washington with the Cowboys' victory last night against the Detroit Lions. We'll see how that strength of schedule plays out through the rest of the day, and if Patriots would stay at 3 and get leapfrogged by the Commanders or whatever. But as of the recording of this, just minutes after the end of the game, the Patriots look to have the number 2 pick. But that's a really good spot to be right now in terms of draft position. But like I said, I think this was best case scenario because other than the 3 picks, big picks, you shouldn't do that, Patriots really did outplay the Buffalo Bills today. Josh Allen did not have a great game, just 15 of 30, only threw for 169 yards, had a dumb boneheaded interception, was only sacked once, but he was facing pressure all game. Patriots were rushing him from the outside. Did a really good job at kind of staying patient and not rushing too quickly and letting him get those extra yards on the ground like he likes to do. But in the second half, the defense could not make the stops in the final minutes to prevent the Bills from running out the clock, and that was the game. Had the ball gone back to the Patriots offense and Zappe, assuming they had decent field position, Bills really did a good job in terms of the field position battle all game, but had Zappe gotten the ball back, Patriots, it wouldn't have been out of the question that they could have marched down the field and won that game, considering the drive before, the way they marched down the field. It's nice to see the offense kind of coming together a bit. There are obviously issues with the offensive line right now. I don't know what's going on with Trent Brown. Reports are saying that he essentially has checked out. It's hard to keep him motivated. This has always been an issue with Trent Brown, and now he apparently plans to test free agency. I'm not sure the Pats will want him back. I don't know how much he's going to get elsewhere because he really does play well as a tackle in New England and doesn't quite do the same with other teams. So maybe they can bring him back for cheap, but this is in all likelihood the end of the Trent Brown era in New England. But what we saw in the second half, particularly on the right side of the offensive line, is Michael Onwenu, who started at right guard this season but moved to right tackle and has done a decent job there all season. He's going to demand $15 to $18 million. I say you pay it. You take care of the right tackle spot. And then you have Sidy Sow right next to him on the right guard, who's slowly been improving, looking to secure that starting role heading into next season, which I think he will. I think you have to be encouraged by the way he's improved this season. You still have David Andrews at center. The other Andrews guy subbed in at left guard at one point today, played a little bit better in the second half. You got to watch the tape, but just seeing how Zappe played and the pressure he was dealing with, it did seem a little better with the other Andrews guys at left guard. But you'll have Cole Strange there next year, and then hopefully you pick up a tackle either in free agency or in the draft to take that left spot. But overall, I'm really impressed with Bailey Zappe. All right. Looking beyond the 3 interceptions again, not great, partly his fault, not entirely his fault, particularly the third one. But seeing him move around the pocket and extend plays, like these are things that we did not really see from Mac Jones. We did a little bit like early in the season against the Eagles, which was one of his better games. But Mac Jones, when he loses that confidence, it just all implodes. He just throws off his back foot. He brings his eyes down. He doesn't extend plays. It's the complete opposite for Bailey Zappe, especially when you look at the adversity that Zappe faced in the first 20 minutes of the game. He came back out there and played very well considering, and he certainly bounced back. And just watching him move around the pocket and extend plays, particularly with his limited athleticism, it's really impressive to see. And sometimes he can scramble and pick up some yards. Again, not Lamar Jackson, not Jaden Daniels. He's not that fast, but he can move pretty well when he needs to. And just his ability to kind of step up in the pocket and make throws at the last possible second, really something we haven't seen in this New England offense really since Tom Brady. And Brady's not exactly a mobile guy, although he moves around in the pocket very well. But it was really good to see Zappe extend those plays, move around the pocket, really make plays throwing on the run. There are issues, obviously. I mean, when he's facing pressure and he has to get the ball away quickly, his accuracy just drops off a table. Obviously not the most athletic quarterback. He's shorter than most NFL starting quarterbacks. And look, he threw a couple picks earlier in this game that were not entirely his fault, but he still shouldn't have made those throws considering sometimes you just have to sit there and take the sack. But the flip side of that is he keeps his eyes high. He doesn't give up on the play. And because of that, he is able to make big plays at the last possible second in the way modern NFL quarterbacks can. And there were 5 or 6 plays I saw where I said Mac Jones would have just dropped his eyes and taken a sack there. So really happy to see Bailey Zappe doing well. I think as of this moment in time, if you have a chance at Caleb Williams, Drake May, or even Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winner, who climbed basically from a second-round prospect to a top 5 prospect, I think you got to take him and just say, Zappe, you've earned the second spot. Let him compete a little bit in camp, but I think you pick one of those 3 guys, it's going to be clear who the better quarterback is. That being said, Patriots play the New York Jets next week. And that is a team they probably will defeat because they always beat the Jets. I know the Jets have a good defense, but so do the Bills. Bills were 14-point favorites heading into this game, and the Patriots, had they gotten the ball back, could have won it in the final seconds, unfortunately. Bills just made 1 or 2 plays down the stretch and were able to run out the clock, but it's going to be tough to see them lose that game. I'm going to be kind of rooting for them to lose, but this is a real chance for Bailey Zappe to kind of show that he deserves that starting spot. And look, you can't get one of those top 3 quarterbacks. If you have a shot at Marvin Harrison Jr., you take him. But let's say you drop to 4th or 5th in the draft and beat the Jets next week. You should look at one of those tackles, Joe Alt, the other guy. I think he's from Alabama. I could be wrong. Well, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But There's 2 or 3 tackles that are probably going to go in the top 10, and then there's like 6 to 8 that will probably go in the first round. If you can't get one of those top 3 quarterbacks, you take one of those tackles, assuming Marvin Harrison Jr. is not available. And then in the second round, or ideally you're able to pick a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix, or you trade back into the first round and select one of those quarterbacks, and they compete with Zappe for the starting job. At this moment in time, I think that is the right plan going forward, but a lot's going to depend on what happens next week against the New York Jets. I know a lot of Patriots fans are going to be rooting for them to lose. I kind of am too, but you know, it would be fun to see Zappe go off and get 3 or 4 touchdowns and say, hey, I'm the starter going forward, and we get a nice little quarterback competition. But you get a chance at those top 3 quarterbacks. You got to take one of them to try to build the franchise around them. And then do what you can at the tackle spot, assuming Trent Brown is gone next year. But going to be an interesting week ahead of us. Bill Belichick, we hope that ends amicably with Robert Kraft, assuming he's on the way out, but I don't think it's a sure thing. Check out some of my podcasts from earlier this week where I talked about the case for Bill Belichick and how some of the alternatives may not be as good as we think they are, and how, look, this team is playing well. This is a resilient group, and they, again, 14-point underdogs. Had they gotten the ball back, they would have had a chance to win that game. We know how good the defense is. We've seen the offense improve. Got to limit the turnovers. It looked a little bit like the old Patriots earlier in the season today, but really nice to see Zappe come in there, be resilient, and give the team at least a shot, and give the defense a shot to give the ball back to the offense and win the game. Couldn't quite get there, but really an encouraging game. Best case scenario to lose this, particularly with the Arizona win. Going to be a lot of interesting storylines, so please tune into Pat's Cast this week. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Helps us out tremendously, and we're going to really try to grow this thing as we head into the offseason and kind of narrow in on, should they take a quarterback? Should they take one of those top receivers? Should they take a tackle and try to build around Zappe or bring in a Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson? Going to be a fascinating offseason, and the nice thing about the Patriots sucking is the storylines are certainly interesting, and that all starts with the head coach and GM as well, and those questions will probably be answered in the next 8 to 9 days or so. So a lot to tune into. I got to head to a Celtics game tonight. I'm going to see them take on Wemby in San Antonio, but be sure to subscribe on YouTube or on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we'll get into a little bit more analysis this week and some reaction to the season finale next week against the Jets. And then it's all about, hey, who's the head coach, who's the GM, who's the future quarterback, what move should the Patriots make? This will be the most interesting offseason we've seen in New England in 20 plus years. So a lot to look forward to. I'll see you then.